Hello everyone, my name is Gabil Gurbanov and this is our first homework assignment from computer graphics course. Let's begin with instructions of homework. We are required to write a program that using HTML and JavaScript that will show a one-line drawing of the given bitmap image by producing a bitmap with a rectangular or spiral as a bonus, varying thickness that emulates the grayscale version of the original image. Here are some classroom, GitHub Classroom and YouTube videos that shows how we are expected to draw the image, but I will show on the go the steps. So the minimum requirements we have: the user should be able to select an image file in standard supported file format through a standard file selection dialog. Then the selected image will be shown on the screen as a canvas. The user should be able to click a button to produce and show the one-line drawing of the selected image. A rectangular spiral will be drawn using grid with a cell size of 5 to 5 pixels. And this is a minimum requirement that we are meant to do. Let me show, let's read all of the instructions just to get familiar with. The processes are divided into three main parts. That selected image is turned into grayscale image as shown here. Then grayscale images is redrawn on a grid with a cell size for pixelation effect, and then every cell is replaced by the corresponding section of the rectangular spiral or just circular spiral as Archimedean, with a thickness corresponding to the darkness of the cell. The resulting one-line drawing image will be or circular or square shaped, so some parts of the original image may be ignored. It's mentioned here. As a bonus part, we have that we should let users save the final one-line drawing as a standard image file. Add interface elements to let users change some parameters easily. Color of the line, red instead of black, color of the background, and pixelation, make pixelation effect more or less visible. Add interface elements to let users do every stage of processing one by one and show results step by step, maybe it's separately, as you can see here, it's separate. Produce a one-line drawing with curved spiral line instead of rectangular one, which is the biggest bonus point we have. And I'm currently doing the last bonus part, that I should create a short online video explaining my program by demonstrating my code and the demo version of itself. So let's begin. Back to the code, let me show firstly how the demo works. This is our original image file that we have here. It draws this image from the game. And first what I do is check if grayscale works. Yes, it works. And for one-line drawing, it draws with specifically depending on the darkness of the pixel. Let me explain how. To make it visible, because it's grayscale, like white and black, it will be more visible with other colors, maybe red, as it's required from our bonus task to change the line color. As we can see, it's also working well. Some additional parts that are not asked about also added distance between circles that can be seen here. Circle of the line thickness also working, and pixelation part also working even without grayscale or with it. And I forgot to show you this one, that saving image also works pretty well. Here it is, the original resolution. So let's head back to the code. Let it be there. So how we start? Firstly, what I do is declare global variables that I will be using in different functions or everywhere, basically. We will be using canvas and its context that I created two also objects for image I'm sorry, two images that one of them will be containing the original image and one of them which will contain the modified image. It does not matter how it will be modified, one line, pixelation, grayscale, and etc. So what it does, we now will note in it that executes the initialization function when the window loads, and as you can see, I but assign to the value of canvas what it should look at it, like it gets document element by ID with GL canvas. Here is my HTML code. Here it is, canvas. It gets element by ID with the width and height, and context of the canvas is assigned here. So when image is inputted, like it feels any change, it will give URL to the images so it can access properly. Why there are two URLs, as I showed here. There are two image objects, that one of them which will contain modified version of image and one of them will contain the original image. That's why. And inside of initializing function, there are many arrow functions that I used as like adding event listener to each of value changer, like button, like slider, checkbox, color picker, and etc. Like here, or color picker, or just a button and slider itself. So I named each of them, so in any change input or change or even click, it will call the corresponding, the same function redraw image. Let's hit back to redraw image, what it's doing, to clarify the pipeline, how it works. When any changes happen, redraw image function is called, and as a rule it clears the canvas in any change. Like if we are loading any new image, or I don't know, like it clears the canvas from the previous value and draws a new one. Where it draws I will show, like it's in the next steps. Firstly, what it does, it clears the context and then only checks the grayscale checkbox. That's why here in HTML I mentioned that my pipeline is built like, first one should be grayscale should be turned on, then it's optionally can be turned on like one line drawing, because one line drawing is dependent on grayscale, because when one line spiral explores the pixel, it should consider the darkness, the depth of the pixelation, so that it can assess how the width of the line will vary. And pixelation, it's optional, it can work without this one, but basically the main pipeline is that without grayscale turned on, one line drawing won't work. We can see even here, like it's turned on, but without grayscale it's not working, because the proper darkness of pixel is not shown. By the way, you can ask that why grayscale is not working here. It actually works, but because the image is only like consists of black and white colors, it's not like that visible, but it's pretty well visible on other images, like here. The one line drawing works only with grayscale, only like after grayscale checkbox is ticked. So pixelate image and apply grayscale filter function are called, even if we do not change the values of pixelation, because it checks if it needs pixelate the image without one line drawing algorithm or not. What these variables do, this finds the center of the canvas, so that in the next algorithm for drawing spiral, Archimedean spiral, it will start from the center. This is basically just two variables for the center that after passed here, as you can see, to the formula which I mentioned as a source here. I will come back to that. What it does, after grayscale checkbox is checked, it also checks if one line drawing algorithm is checked. These variables helps us to vary the distance between the lines of the circle. It actually not circle, why I named circle? I will change it back to the spiral. Yeah. So here is a formula that I used from this source. It's a perfect formula for implementing the Archimedean spiral. So basically, why A and B? Because one of them corresponds based on the formula and source I researched from. One basically is corresponding to the X coordinate and one of them is Y. And after implementing here hard code, what I mean by saying hard code, I implement like wrote just number, not any variable. Why? Because if we implement, I mean input image 8K resolution image, the spiral, not movement but drawing, will not be enough to cover all the canvas. That's why I just typed 10,000 for specifying just it should draw till the canvas border, like width and height are met or intersected. It would add some additional few lines which is not needed and can be avoided with higher number, which I do not expect someone that can input or will input higher resolution image to the canvas just to think how one line draw image algorithm works. So here I used as a next step arrow function to get line thickness for the spiral. I used here because this slider will play crucial role just to formulate the image itself. So what happens here? Pixel size, it gets value from the slider and tills the 10 because in HTML it's valued maximum 10, and then we are accessing the RGB data of the canvas, which we will need for darkness of each for calculating darkness of each pixel by dividing it to 3. This is the values red, green, and blue, and based on this darkness, we will be assigning the thickness value. It will be shown here. Why in this variable I called the arrow function named getLineThickness? Because the biggest obstacle I met during this assignment is to draw spiral in different line width. What that means? Let me show you. So to make it less, yeah, that could do and play enough. Yeah, as you can see here, line width differs from this one. This one more thinner than this one, more thicker. Like, it's because of depending on how dark the pixel is. Here are like it's more lighter. You can see if I turn off the one line, like here is whiter, I mean here is darker, and when I implement the one line drawing algorithm, the width of the lines are getting wider, like thicker, because I did not mention the biggest obstacle I had during this assignment. Basically, when starting the drawing of line, from the beginning till the end, the line width will be the same. However, we can solve this issue with dividing this all path into the line segments. What I mean by that? For each that, like for each angle it rotates, it has some value that it stops. That, I mean, it's not properly visible, but there are some minor visible black like spaces, which means here is a line is starting or ending, and it goes till, I don't know when the value changes for line weight. So basically for the second line, it calls from the arrow function to get line thickness that begins pass for one line segment. It moves to previous coordinates of x and y. And why I used here line 2, because it draws line from previous coordinate of previous x and y to the x and y coordinates, and based on line thickness of each end of canvas, it gets the average of line width that is set to draw. And for these two, let me assign here highlight to make it more visible. With the help of line color picker in HTML here, I can assign the color of the line, which is easily made with a slider, and it's implemented through stroke style that it inputs the value of color to the canvas line, and finally context stroke is just draws the image. Why I am explaining this part of code in detail? Because it's the crucial part that creates many questions, because the other parts like apply grayscale filter and pixelation part are not that hard. The hardest part is just to implement one line draw algorithm, especially in Archimedean spiral form. So basically others in else statement, which is corresponding to grayscale checkbox, checks if it's ticked or not, draws the original image if it's not checked. If it's not checked, like it draws the original image here, and checks again pixelation part value, which works without grayscaling. Where we left off. So here after else statement we have apply grayscale filter, where we called here in the beginning of grayscale checkbox of the first if statement. It's here, yeah, first if statement for apply grayscale filter. It gets the data of image. I will talk about this shortly because I told what this does. I mean, accessing the RGB values and dividing it by 3 to get it not darkness, but here it's named as an average, because this assigns to red, green and the blue values as it's done here with darkness. Red, green and the blue values divided to 3 just to find the darkness, like average grayscaled from just to implement this filter. And then each of them are assigned as a red, green, blue to put the image effect back. For pixelation part and function, we have cell size. Why? Because as a maximum value of slider we have 10, even in HTML file. Pixelation, yes, the minimum value of 1 is maximum 10, and steps and values are 1 as an initial. So it passes the cell size to the for loop that iterates through y and x coordinates. But before it gets I should like highlight this one also, that image data is just gets context of canvas based on width and height, and this data is just accessed for RGB values. After passing like implementing the loop, just to like loop through the canvas and declaring the initial values of red, green, blue. I implemented this counter. I will mention in next step after the red, green, and blue are used and summed for some purposes. Be like it generally what it does basically is this like for loop. Let me explain in short. That it discovers each pixel, and if we divide it the whole image to the 5 to 5, it should find the average of color what's fitting in the one pixel as the sum of red, green, and the blue, and divide it by counter because it finds how many, like if to say roughly in root form, it basically calculates how many pixels is containing in one another pixel that formulates the pixelation effect. So why we are floating? Because it can get the float number. So here we have red, green, and blue, and then we apply for the index that I accessed here, turns back and overrides the red, green, and blue value, which creates pixelation effect. You see, for example, here as a green and white can get into one pixel, it calculates how many white, like green, red, green, and blue should be containing in exactly this pixel to show it properly for this pixelation effect. After all of that, it's again all the result is put it back to the image data, and finally as a save image button, I have here it just contains the original image if not any like grayscale or one line drawing is not implemented, not mentioning the pixelation, because not grayscale and one line drawing, the main part of pipelines, are not implemented. Saves, let me show it how. The original image is shown here, and for the grayscaled, let me change the values and pixelation part. Yeah, let's save the image and open if it saves correctly. Yeah, so this creates a new DOM element, and then as a link value it gives as a canvas to data URL that it's image. You should save it as an image PNG. Why exactly PNG I used here? Because usually I used different formats of file, even though it's JPEG for the original image. It basically converts JPEG to PNG. It can be changed to any other formats for the picture files, but mainly that's it. That's how my code works. And if to play with the values of these sliders, we can basically see how the silhouette of the image is drawn and how we can manipulate the line width of the canvas to show that we implement the algorithm and basically showing the understanding of one line drawing algorithm. That's it, I guess. Let me see the requirements if I talked about everything, not forgetting. Minimum requirements are meant. The selected image turned into grayscale. Pixelation part is already done. Also, spiral one-line draw algorithm is also shown. Saving part also works, and I added some interfaces for user to play with, which is already done. I added interface elements separately, which shows which pipeline, how and where it works, which also is a part of bonus. And basically the biggest bonus point part is implementing Archimedean spiraled one-line drawing algorithm. And that's it. That's end of video for first assignment of computer graphics course. Thank you for listening. Bye.